Good afternoon once again to the wonderful people here in the Genealogy Discovery Center and to those of you who are joining us online. One of the best parts of a program like this is there are really four good components all day long, and this is a very excellent component as well. As I was telling a couple of you at lunch, Rick and I met at a Roots Tech, I believe. A number of years ago, Allison was with us, and I think another colleague as well. And we're just intrigued with Rick's program. It's like, this is, hate to use a technical word at the end of the day, but this is really cool. This does really good things. And we got into conversations about how the user experience would be, how the software would work. And then I don't know what the tipping point was, Rick, about this is more than just scanning pictures. I think that was pretty early on, that there's more here than just scanning pictures. So Rick brings a tremendous amount of experience as an entrepreneur, as a CEO, brings a tremendous amount of experience in the photography field. So all of that coming together to advantage people who are interested in story and the power of story. So without much further ado, you can add to your introduction as you would like, Rick, but thank you for joining us and thank you for bringing this to us today.
My pleasure, Kurt. Allison, John, all of you, thank you for having me, and you online. As background, it is kind of funny. What's the journey that brings you to a place? And I celebrated on July 8th, 40 years in the memory business. And the memory business, if you had asked me that 10 years ago, it would have been all photo memories. And boy, this journey over the last 10 years has been pretty cool. Using that technical term that Kurt just used of really advancing how we're able to use photos in different ways. Quick background on me. So I was started out with Kodak, which is a photographic company, used to be quite large globally. I like saying that in jest, certainly not what it used to be anymore. But a wonderful, wonderful company for so long. And I finished there as Vice President, National Sales Manager for any consumer printed or digitized image in North America. I had a 1-year non-compete. I went to work for HP. I helped spin up a division over there that was connecting homes to stores to online. And helped then quit HP and went to help a friend spin up a company. But if you go into any Walmart store today, you'll see a blue and white kiosk in their pharmacy area that started out as vision screening and then blood pressure and then body mass index and then health evaluations. And once I started to really taste health and really taste entrepreneurship, I could never think about going into anything other than entrepreneurship. So I called up an old friend of mine, and I like saying that he's the smart one because he is. So Randy holds over 150 patents in digital imaging science with Kodak. We, Vivid-Pix, hold 2 full software patents with a third one underway. So background, I'm a memory guy, photographic and more. So Vivid-Pix, we invent and harness technologies, making it simple for individuals, families, and organizations to relive memories. Their motto, "Don't let your memories fade," describes the importance of photos and activities that nurture brain health, improve cognition, assist family historians and caregivers, and create connections. Vivid-Pix integrates their photoreminiscence therapy, PRT research, and family history activities into products and services for simple operation, to have fun, and to age well. So, as I say, if 13 years ago, if anyone had ever thought that I would be standing here talking about cognition and how brain health can be improved through photographs, I would have said, I have no idea what you're talking about. This is what we do. Right. From where we are today. But it all kind of fits together. Because I was at a dive show. Randy and I were at a dive show, ironically, in Orlando. Didn't know Josh yet. And he introduced me, a friend of mine, Randy, or excuse me, a friend of mine, Gary, introduced Randy and I to a guy who had just picked up the line for Kodak scanners, ironically. With the Kodak scanners, was able to break apart the software for image improvement from the Kodak scanners and wanted something different. So at an IHOP, we had a breakfast and said, do you think you can create software to improve old faded photos? And ironically, I had launched a lot in the United States on using that old software Kodak had, and Randy had invented a lot of it. So we created this thing called Restore, and we met some really nice people from Fort Wayne, Indiana. And it was at this Roots Tech that Kurt just spoke of. And we learned. And then we noticed that May was National Photo Month, and it was also Mental Health Awareness Month. And then we met these really nice people down in Louisville, Kentucky. I just mentioned them, Thrive Center. And they started to be able to understand how we were thinking about tying together photo and mental health. And then this thing happened, and we all kind of got isolated, and we started to get into education. And then how might that morph into yet something more? And we met more nice people. And these pieces started to come together on how do we use photos. And then we did some primary research on how we could use photos to engage those with cognitive decline. And you met Josh this morning. We did primary research with Josh Service Institute NOD. It would seem as if for a loved one to make, and whether it be for a spouse or whether it be for a child, that you're able to spend time with your loved one again. And I've done this with my mom as an example. And all of a sudden those sparks do start going off, and I'm able to reconnect her to her thoughts, but me to my thoughts by having this conversation and allowing the love to come out.
It's almost like a triangle, like as you speak, I see it forming, is that you both focus on that picture and it connects you, but then by the end you're having conversation which redirects you between the two people. And it's almost like that memory gets relived and it's you and that person, but you're using that modality of a photo to reconnect and bring that person back to life so you can relive those moments, even just socially, where you get a piece of your mom back for that.
Yes. So as all this was kind of going on, we recognized that National Photo Month, National Mental Health Awareness Month, and we found reminiscence therapy, which is not new, but was covered earlier this morning. It started as an understanding in the 1960s, has not become a understood science yet. But when I read this statement from the National Institutes of Health that states, reminiscence therapy involves the discussion of past activities, events, and experiences with another person or group of people, usually with the aid of tangible prompts, such as photographs, household and familiar items from the past, music, and archived sound recordings. I figured there would be research out there on photos, and there was very little. So we set out to do it, and that's how Josh and I ended up meeting each other to do that primary research, and we continue to do more. So most of us have photos and memories handed down to us about ourselves and those that came before us. So what does that mean? When I was growing up, my parents took pictures of me. I've got one memory that I like sharing is that my parents said I was enamored with Donald Duck when we went to Disneyland and I was a little guy. And I remember that, but I don't think I remember it because I was 3. I think I remember it because I was shown a photograph and I've heard that story my whole life. And then here we are at the Allen County Public Library, the largest genealogy center in public library in America. And we've been handed down knowledge. So then we age and we've created our own photos and stories that we've collected and wish to share with our kids and future generations. And we have lots of stuff. So what do we do with all of this? And before I go to the next slide, we're going through mass digitization in the US and everywhere else. We're digitizing things, but we're turning analog mess into digital mess. We're not capturing stories. And that's why we invented Memory Station. So most want to reminisce and preserve legacy. They wish to share their and other stories in a simple way, independently as a hobby, which creates that neurogenesis thing, and or with a bit of assistance. That could be at home, that could be in a care location. At home or in a trusted environment, like at Allen County Public Library. So Josh touched on it this morning, but he didn't go into depth. What is photoreminiscence therapy?
At this point, you might be asking, what does a session look like? So we're going to break down a few examples of what sessions could look like. The first one I'm going to do is a caregiver. This might be a caregiver for an older adult that needs some help just around the house or for care. Is a caregiver coming in and looking at the photos in a house. They sit down, they know how to look at that photo and foster a conversation or quilt that conversation and all the fabrics that go along with that one photo. What this does is it allows for connection. So as that person goes through, they start talking more and more about photos. She shares her story as well. You have that two-way street we've talked about. That caregiver actually utilizes different photos and creates a prescription in her mind. It's not formulated, but it's one that she's circulating in her mind. Throughout that process, as she's cleaning the house, she starts to find more and more photos in a shoebox in the closet. She starts pulling those out, putting them on a table. Then slowly they go into a scrapbook. Each step of the way that she is getting this person that maybe doesn't get to socialize that often, sharing their story. By the end of that, this person is now excited for when they come in, when they're going to talk about their next session. That resident she's taking care of picks up the phone and calls a daughter and says, I just had a caregiver revisit this. I totally forgot about camping and we used to have so much fun. You camp now, don't you? So it creates all these ripple effects. That's just one scenario. It could also be that a son or daughter is having difficulty connecting with a loved one with maybe dementia. So this might be that they come in, they have difficulty communicating because of aphasia or speech challenges, but they show a photo and that resident's eyes light up. When they connect to that photo, slowly they see that memories start pouring back. As they go through this, the family actually brings more and more photos. Each time that they come in, that resident starts speaking more, bringing conversations together, getting excited in the community where he lives, going and telling people about the stories or his family, or he has a copy of a photo he brings to lunch. Now he's socializing where maybe he didn't socialize before. Or even more so is that the psyche of somebody with dementia is changing. Maybe they don't have as many barriers, and maybe you'll get a story you've never heard before. Maybe you heard something that they struggled with, or maybe something that they've always wanted to do but didn't want to share with you because they don't want you to feel bad that they wanted to go skydiving but couldn't afford it when you were younger, or so on and so forth. But there's a lot of rich stories that might come out from just showing a photo. So we can see the profound impact. One other one could be a teacher working with a child that struggles and gets mad in class and is frustrated, but has a photo on their backpack of their favorite superhero. Doesn't have to be associated with something. And then before you know it, you start talking about that superhero, and you found out for Halloween he dressed in that superhero costume. Throughout those conversations, you notice that he feels insecure, and when he's dressed like a superhero, he can do anything. So one day he actually gets to dress up in that superhero costume, and you get him to do something he's never done before, building self-confidence, changing his perception, and also getting him to connect to other kids confidently. You could actually change that just based on a photo. So the way that photoreminiscence therapy is getting people to see that photo, share a story, but then having an objective that's beyond that photo. So in those 4 examples that we shared, is what we noticed is that there's connection. And the importance throughout this training is that it's not just one session, but it's how do we keep building off of each session. There might be a session that is identical to a session before, that's okay. But the goal is always to move that session forward and have outcomes. Get people to share their story, to share why that is important to them. Another example could be based off of a recent study. In this study, they showed that if a caregiver sat down with somebody that wouldn't take their medicine and showed a few photos and connected socially with that person, leading with a social connection, is that they're about 50% more likely to take their medication. This could avoid people having to go to the hospital, change their setting, be disrupted throughout their day. So the power of a photo can be more than just connecting, but also have even a medical outcome or a health outcome that can be beneficial. So the goal should always be to focus beyond the photo. How do we use a photo to have an outcome beyond that photo? Now you might be asking, it's time to do my session. How do I do this? Where do I start? It doesn't take a lot of energy to start. You don't have to be overwhelmed. Just find a photo. Start talking with people. So find somebody that you want to do your session with. Find at least a photo or two. Ask people for questions. Have them give you a photo. And then just jump in. The best way to do this is not to overthink it, to have it be normal, and just know that a photo can speak 1,000 words. So just start with 1 or 2 words and see where it goes. Allow that session to go wherever you want it to go.
So I have found I'd rather be lucky than smart. And learn from pay attention to what's going on around you. So my mom and my stepfather took a drive from Rochester, New York, which is where I'm from, where I grew up, live in Charleston, South Carolina, down to Florida. And mom's meds got out of whack. And all of a sudden she was asking the same question over and over and over again. And we got her meds back in line, and we got mom back. But we saw the future. And as we were just sharing, a couple of us here in the room before we started to re-record, maybe it was being recorded, is that I wish I had the memories recorded of my dad, and yet even more with mom. But I feel that it's our responsibility to help others to capture those memories before they fade. So mom continued then to start asking this at a later point, to start asking the same question over and over again. And I found that if I could pull out the old photo albums, I could enjoy spending time with her again. And this is an example. So, mom, we've got an old photo album here. And I would love to have you explain to me and other lucky viewers to explain to me what's inside of here, some of the people, and all that fun stuff. So what are we looking at?
We're looking at 2 Jocelyn girls. We're looking at Lois and Beverly.
Wow, cool.
And Lois is 5 years older than Beverly. And this is in the buggy. And this is on the farm. Esmond.
Wow.
This is on Grandma's porch. This is Beverly and Byron. And this is Lois and Beverly and Byron on the porch.
Wow. Okay, so I hope you don't mind me aging you here. Can I age you here? Okay, so you are 87 years old?
Yes, I'm 87.
So this is 2018, and you look like you're probably pretty young in that picture.
I think so. Maybe a year old.
Maybe a year old?
That just says.
Scribble. Cool. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So what do I see there? So I can remember a wonderful time with Mom, and I'm hearing her, I'm spending time with her, and I'm capturing a story of her when she's 1 year old. She flipped over that photo, and what was there? Nothing. Scribble. So if we don't capture the stories with these wonderful photographs, so then I mentioned meeting other wonderful people. And unfortunately, Sherry didn't have that same experience.
There's so many products that are out there on the market. Vivid-Pix. We talked about that one because I can't tell you how many people come into the Thrive Center and say, I never captured those stories of my dad or my grandfather, and I wish I had done that. And I didn't either. And when my mom passed, I opened up the cedar chest and I pulled out my dad's little shirt. I'm like, oh my gosh, he was tiny when he joined the Marines at 16 to fight in World War II. And he weighed 114 pounds. And so I found his shirt, I found his Marine ID. And these are the stories that we let slip away. And we lose our heritage when we do that.
So this was a symposium that we had down in Louisville on May 22nd. National Genealogical Society was having a conference, national conference, and we brought together the aging community. Charlotte was there, Sherry was there, other rock stars, and our family history community as well, and rock stars. Kurt was there, others were there. And the goal here is that by aligning our family history community and our aging community, we can create neurogenesis, we can create neuroplasticity and learn new skills, and we can make sure we don't lose our heritage. So how might we do that?
I have so many pictures and boxes and documents of things going back to 1894. I'm so glad that I found some way to preserve them for my family and future generations. Let's get started with my memory station. It's so easy to use. The image stabilizer flattens the photos to make a better scan. Then all you do is press scan. What's really amazing is that it doesn't have to be a picture. It can be an object and it will scan it. Click Restore and your images will automatically go into the Restore software to make them look great. So this is a faded photo. So you want to go up to Faded Print or Slide and click on that. And then it gives you all of these options and you can pick the one that you think looks best to you and click on that. And you can see the difference. It's amazing. So now that I have restored my image, I'm able to record a voice memory to go with it. So I'll go down here to record. This is my grandmother and all her sisters. I think there were like 12, and they are picking strawberries in her brother's strawberry farm. It's just great. They all have their bonnets on, except my grandmother. She was a little bit of a rebel. Stop record. But it's wonderful because now I can share this with my whole family. They've never even seen it, and you're all set. So Stories allows me to combine my images and my voice recordings of my memories to create movies. So this screen allows me to remove any images that I might not want or move them around to create a movie. So then you go to create. Now let me share this wonderful short story with my family. This is my grandfather's naturalization paper that he got when he came over from Ireland in 1925. This is my grandmother and all her sisters. I think there were like 12, and they are picking strawberries in her brother's strawberry farm. It's just great. They all have their bonnets on, except my grandmother. She was a little bit of a rebel. So this is a pouch. It's called a pouch, and it goes on the kilt that my grandfather wore in World War One. He was in the Irish Brigade, and this was part of their uniform.
Okay, so let's reflect on what we've been hearing all morning. If we relive memories, we're creating neurogenesis. We're reconnecting things in our brain. If we're learning new things, we're exercising the brain, and that's neuroplasticity. As Charlotte was sharing, that we need to use tech to help people. So an intuitive interface that's designed for this generation, which I'm a part of, as well as to be using our photos, documents, and memorabilia so all that knowledge isn't lost. The result is increased connection. Kurt was sharing a story about his dad and his sons. What a wonderful way for his sons to remember who grandpa was. Increased social engagement. Now the person has something that they can talk to others about, and those other people can learn about them, and we can be doing these activities together and connecting with each other. Improved emotional expression. So what did Charlotte talk about? If we're able to feel better about aging, we're going to age better. We're going to thrive as we age. And then meaningful moments of connection with loved ones and caregivers. So loved ones, that's me and mom. Caregivers, those, and I could be a caregiver too with mom, but paid caregivers, and I'll cover a little bit more of that in a moment with Josh, is that if we can create connection between caregivers and loved ones, the loved one is going to do better and the caregiver is going to enjoy their job more. And in this time within caregiving, it's hard to keep people excited about their jobs. Let's create connection so everybody does better. So my hashtag when I post in social media is live life, take pictures, share stories, and listen. That's what I wrote. So I knew this person for a long time. We had this event down in Louisville. I didn't know this side of her, but oh my gosh, Bernice.
I think that you can help the aging community by providing them opportunity to share stories. And my own work at one point in my life was through the Dallas Area Agency on Aging. They had a program called, it was Access Services for the Elderly. Now, with that, we had many people that were vulnerable, shut-ins, maybe had family, but family didn't know how to provide the support they needed. A group of individuals and organizations came together to talk about case management and coordinating services. That was pretty much the key. How do you coordinate services for a vulnerable population that may not know how to access the services in the community? With that came social workers and individuals that could really talk to people and have them share stories about their family members. Reminiscent therapy is what we refer to it. And I'm telling you, this wasn't yesterday. This was many, many years ago. It just brought back everything to me and all the memories that I experienced in being the director of patient services discharge planning, because we would bring in a coordinated body of people that would determine, well, where should this person go? How can we work with the family? How could we encourage the family to talk and be a part of that person's life? Even if there was some mental decline, we still had an opportunity to provide them with the support with dignity and respect, which is what is important when you talk about dealing with people that are aging. And I'm one of those people, you know.
Really cool lady. So the power of photos in senior care as a connection tool, as a memory stimulus, as emotional support. And when people get agitated, I'll dig into that one a little bit more, to use that photo to redirect. And identity reinforcement. I love it when I get to share this one picture of mine. I'm 19. Took a road trip from the University of Denver over to Vegas with Pete. And I'm standing, leaning up against a rail, the Grand Canyon behind me, leather jacket, black leather jacket, with Winston cigarette and Budweiser in hand. Okay. And you want to talk about intergenerational connectedness? All of us have stories and we can connect on different levels. So photos aren't just decoration, they're powerful therapeutic tools as well. So I don't want to pigeonhole reminiscence therapy as just for those with cognitive decline. It's for everybody. How do we use a photo in many different ways? And story sharing is a way to share things that were important to us and are probably important to the other person as well.
People often ask why my daughter is named Seneca. Now that you're old enough to answer that question for yourself, Seneca Jane Morton, I made this story for you. 3 years before you were born, I visited Seneca Falls, New York, widely accepted as a birthplace of the women's rights movement in the United States. With my mom and our friend Nancy and your 2-year-old brother, I toured the Women's Rights National Historic Park. I learned about some of the women who led the early charge for women's equality, including Mary Baker Eddy of the Christian Science faith, which supported women's rights consistent with its belief in female spiritual power, and which faith also appears on the maternal side of our family tree. The wall where the Declaration of Sentiments is carved recounts injustices toward women. I felt anger and sadness, but I also felt strong and emboldened at these women standing up for themselves and for us. I will never forget that moment. Later, when we heard the exciting news that we were expecting a daughter, and almost immediately learned that you had spina bifida and that your life would have a lot of physical challenges. Your dad and I started thinking about what to name you. I wanted a name that would draw on a legacy of womanly power. In our family, we already have a matrilineal name, Jane. It's my middle name and that of my mother and her aunt, whose sister was a Christian Science practitioner, and so forth, back to, what do you know, 2 women named Seneca, Jane. Could there be a stronger, more beautiful name for you? Seneca after Seneca Falls and Jane after the women in our family, and Seneca Jane after 2 of our female forebears. The combination of names is handed down, but it is now uniquely yours, Seneca Jane Morton, to give your own stories and strength. Love, Mom.
I wish I could hear my dad tell me in his own voice where I got my name. 'Cause I know it. So what we've created is a turnkey solution to help people in home environments and shared use environments. It's available here at Allen County Public Library. Please come and use it. It's available for them to come out to your facilities. They can come out and have wonderful programming. If you decide that you want one for yourself, yeah, we sell them. There are over 100 million Americans, 12.5 million Canadians, and 1.2 billion globally over the age of 55. We wish to share our stories, to share other people's stories with children of all ages and future generations.
I'm Ken Larson. I'm from Sequim, Washington. Genealogy is finding names, dates, and places. You got family history, which is learning about the people.
Introducing the Family Matters Community Outreach Toolkit, a partnership of the National Genealogical Society and Vivid-Pix.
Vivid-Pix and the National Genealogical Society developed a turnkey program to help organizations bring the public in the door. Through this partnership, organizations can access equipment, classes, and interactive programs that connect people with their family history and organizations with new audiences.
Vivid-Pix is all about making it simple to relive your memories. This includes scanning or downloading photos and documents to create your family history, fast, easy, and affordable software to improve these images, and various education to help people do more.
The whole education arm of Vivid-Pix is so important, telling people about story. I've been a strong advocate my entire career about the power of story. That's why people engage in genealogy. That's why people join societies, attend webinars, show up at conferences. They're excited, they're engaged about finding their family's stories, the power of story. It changes lives. We know that. That's why we do this. And Vivid-Pix has been a wonderful partner to help people find their stories and appreciate the power of story. Then in addition to really strong, really solid education, we're so pleased to be partnering with Vivid-Pix on the memory care aspect. And if you think about it, there's kind of 2 ways of interpreting memory care. One, we know our photographs contain many of our family's memories. Vivid-Pix is helping us care for those memories. Second, we know how important it is to take care of our family members, our friends, our loved ones who are on the dementia spectrum. And Vivid-Pix, through their work with the National Institute for Dementia Studies, has found and has identified and articulated best what we kind of thought or believed all along, that taking pictures, marrying really good metadata to those pictures, or taking pictures to our loved ones and recalling stories and events related to the picture we're showing helps people.
We installed the memory station in June of 2022, and I can tell you some of the things we've gotten done, because it's been great. We've scanned over 2,000 CGS photos and almost 3 gigabytes of CGS historical documents. It's also been very popular with our members, having scanned countless photos and historical documents themselves for their own family history work.
A major part of the success of your programming is based on public outreach. The Family Matters Toolkit has turnkey promotional templates, but that's not all. We have marketing education by experts Amy Johnson-Crow, Sue Kaufman, Sherry Bush, and Allison Dupre Singleton.
Let's look a little bit deeper, because there are free options even for ones that you think of as traditionally paid. You want to look at radio public service announcements. You can request television stations to cover events.
Your toolkit has press releases and templated content that you can use for the public service announcements that Allison discussed. We also provide you with a calendar of holidays to plan and promote timely events. These same templates work perfectly for community flyers and on social media.
So if you would share a smirk with Allison, Kurt, and I, you can ask local media to come out to events who were just here a moment ago, which is pretty fun. So they're obviously $1,500. That's a full system. It's about $1,000 to have it in a home environment, but there are less expensive ways. And this is a program that we launched 2 weeks ago that ties together photoreminiscence therapy for home use. We also do have professional one that provides 1.5 CEUs for nurses and dementia care. Our memory station software works with virtually any scanner. So if you got an HPO-1, if you got an Epson, fill in the blank, software works with that. You don't need a super fancy cool scanner. And then 3, it includes memory cards. So memory cards is I've spent a lot of time in the photo finishing business, and I photo finishing, making pictures. I never wanted to get into the photo finishing business until I had something unique, and we do. So imagine a caregiver, and you've seen a couple of these during the presentations. Imagine that you're interacting with a loved one and you're able to share a photo, and the caregiver has the information about that loved one behind it. Now you've created engagement and conversation. And what my mom is doing now, she's spending many hours a day reading the back because she's reminiscing, she's reliving these wonderful times in her life and spending time with the people she loves, hopefully me. So that's memory card. Gift to all of you who are here that work in senior care. It would be my pleasure to give you a copy of what I just shared. So the software, the software to photo reminisce, to capture story, and to be able to create memory cards. So, and then for everyone online who is in the care industry for this live event, not anyone who watches it afterwards, but please accept a gift. Thank you for your time. I'm interested in your thoughts. My card is here. Please share. So memory cards are cool. So this is mom, my daughter. My daughter's 35 now. What a joyous moment, right? Mom is helping my daughter walk her first steps. And it wasn't the actual first step. That happened in our living room with my wife and I remember it well. But allowing her to be able to relive those wonderful moments. So at this point, I'm going to pause, and everything that you've seen so far is available today, going to market today. We're not standing still. So I'd like to invite a friend of mine, Kate, to step up here. And Kate owns a company called Arcoral. And I'll let her explain what the name Arcoral means. But if you're going through photoreminiscence therapy for someone with cognitive decline, it would be awfully good for you to be able to do more with that knowledge.
Thank you, Rick. So as he said, I'm Kate, and my company is Arcoral. And where our name comes from is archiving the chorus of life. We believe that everyone dances to the beat of a different drum, and it requires all of those drums to make the song of humanity. So it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, or what your deal is, basically, you matter. And I'm really, really blessed to have met Rick. We met in the genealogy space because that's where I really come from, is the preservation of my family history. I was either blessed or cursed. I don't know which one because farmers don't throw anything away. So I have a lot to figure out. And that's where our quarrel comes from, is figuring out my family. But those of you that are here in the room with us today that have met my husband, he has frontotemporal degeneration, FTD. He also has Lewy body. He also has advanced aphasia. So the memory keeping and the cognitive space really became something very personal to me. Right after we started this journey, my mother got diagnosed with Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. So getting her stories out of her became a time-sensitive thing. So when it comes to Rick and this amazing product, integrating it into the world of genealogy and family history, those of us that are history buffs, we want that faded photo. We want that yellowed photo because it's part of the time capsule. But when you age, your eyes change. So having that restored photo is the one that's going to better jog their memory. It's the one that they're going to be better be able to see. And those videos you saw, that you could record the story. So we also have storytelling that transcribes. So once you go through this beautiful process of scanning and storytelling and reliving, we are where you can put it to preserve it and integrate it in with your family history and your genealogy. So another thing that I like to tell people is every time you see a piece of media, you see it differently. And Josh spoke about that as well. Change the environment that you're sitting in. So cognitive decline or not, where you're sitting or what time frame it is or what kind of mood you're in, you're going to see things differently. So part of photoreminiscence therapy is to exercise the brain. One of the first things to go is executive function, but your memories are so deep, they're protected, they're safeguarded. So imagine you're doing this story and you're looking at this and you're learning things. You're doing a therapy session with someone and you're learning. You can take the notes from what they taught you, integrate it into your family history archive. Now you know the puppy's name. Now you know the house that they were sitting in. Now you know the story behind that chair. So the next time you revisit that same image with your loved one, you can continue the prompts. You can help guide them to get a little bit deeper and a little bit more out of that story. So not only do you get to know them better, they get to remember more and feel stronger and more secure. So in facilities, we moved into a facility, my husband and I did. I was at the age of 43, living in a senior care facility, assisted living. So I got to see a little bit different side of facilities than a lot of the staff does, because they like to gossip in the lunchroom. Engaging them, getting to know them, knowing, did they have a clothing shop? Were they in the war? Were the personal connection is really just a wonderful thing to have. And, oh, I was looking for the other side. I gotta do this. I gotta press buttons. Oh, it's a PC. I don't press PC buttons. There we go. So another thing that they kept mentioning over and over again between Charlotte and Dr. Josh was being able to organize your photos. So what I love about what we've done is you don't have to copy and paste a picture or move it into a new album. when something works or something doesn't work. You can go through your progressions and you can say, it's bedtime, so I'm gonna start rolling through some images of when my mother was getting me ready for bed, when she was getting ready for bed. I believe it was Josh that mentioned putting on pajamas 2 hours early. It starts that understanding, when it's coming time to bathe. Sometimes they think bathing is scary, it's dangerous, it's foreign, I'm gonna be wet, I'm gonna be uncomfortable. But you put that photo of, do you remember bathing me in that little tub in the sink that I used to fit in? And it brings that emotional connection. And that's what everybody means by you can steer people. So creating them in these particular albums, you even have one that says, don't look at these. You can do it like that too. And I think that being able to reminisce and go through these programs with these tools and integrate it into your family history, that's when you have the voice of your father, the voice of your mother, all of those things. I wish I had a recording of my father reading me the grocery list. I don't care. I just wish I could hear. And that's what all of this beautiful stuff does. So thank you for coming today.
Thank you. So I believe in partnerships, and I think, and I know Allen County does. So none of us can do everything best. None of us can do everything best. Many of us can do lots of things good to do great things, as Kurt and I say. So I mentioned briefly a moment ago, creating connection in senior care between loved ones and caregivers.
How do you think we can help excite the caregiver to say, this is why I want to work with older adults? I'm able to have an impact on these older adults by bringing forth these stories. How can we excite the caregiver?
Yeah, I think it's also allowing them to have the opportunity to share their story. It's always a two-way street in every conversation in most cases. So making sure that that caregiver has an opportunity to share a little bit of their life through their story with that senior. Now, it's not just all them, but that opens the door. Once you create relationship, it's very easy to grow that relationship. But what I see that often happens is we create a divide. Worker and resident. So then automatically that's what it is. But at the end of the day, when we take that apart, it's two humans that can have a conversation. And I think relatability is really important. So oftentimes you'll see that we do life bios for seniors so that we know who we're caring for. So what they like, what they don't. Why aren't we doing that same thing for the caregiver? So that that resident can actually read it and learn about their caregiver. What do they like to do? Obviously, there's some touchy subjects that you might not want to include, but really things like, do they have kids? Do they do they play baseball in high school? I think that could open the conversation for nostalgia for both of them to share, but also creates human connection. So that's why I feel like we create a lot of divides by saying you're worker and you're resident, and we lose that human connection. But I guarantee you care for your parent so well. So creating that relationship for a caregiver to feel like they're caring for their mom and dad is going to just improve care. So you want to create that relationship and focus on that primarily.
So why is this important? I hadn't thought about something that somebody recently said to me. So I was born in 1962. So I'm at the tail end of the baby boomers. 1946 to 1964. So that means that the beginning of the baby boom generation, they're 79 years old right now. We are just starting the tsunami. So I happen to be part of a conference with the 10 largest insurance companies that sell long-term care insurance in Louisville last Monday. And think about the economics that are in play. And what if you were able to create good care through reminiscence therapy without drugs, just through family history and connection, as opposed to having somebody have to move having somebody to have more assistance, i.e. the second bar at the bottom there is having 2 hours of home care per day for 52 weeks compared to that larger one of going into independent living facility, or the cost of assisted living, or going to memory care. So we as a nation, we as a world are about to hit this tsunami. We should be figuring out, how do we do things differently? So I haven't coined this completely, but I kind of like the way this is said, which is aging well plus family history equals dollars and cents. I want to thank all of you for your time today. Hopefully you've found this productive. Do y'all have any questions?
Where were you 20 years ago? I could have used you then.
Good comments. The statement was, if we didn't hear it, where was I 20 years ago? And gosh, I sure wish I had my dad's voice. But I've got stories that I'm creating for my daughter from some of our trips, so she has it. Yep. Thoughts, questions?
Well, something I saw earlier, when you and your mother were looking over pictures, what she did when she wanted to find out what the picture was, my grandparents did for years. We'd go look through the scrapbooks. First thing we would do was pull the picture out, turn it over, and read what was on the back side.
And so, wonderful comment. So when we're lucky, we've got the notes on the back. When we're lucky, we've got some writings around the outside. Too frequently, we don't. We don't have to anymore. We live in a digital age. We can capture it. So thank you. Any other thoughts, questions? Yeah. Okay.
You know, I just want to kind of comment on the part where the lady said she named her daughter Seneca. And I kind of went through a little memory thing of my own. And that was a community, a Black community that was named Seneca. That was all Black during that time, you know, the immigration, segregation things, so forth. And they had everything that they needed there. And that is now part of New York, what's the Central Park. But the city decided they wanted a park and ran those people off their lands. I mean, you really just destroyed everything. But Seneca was the name of that community. You know, it just didn't just come up. I think they named it that. And I'm pretty sure it was probably named one of their children, no doubt. You know, but they had a thriving base and grocery stores, and I mean whatever they needed, you know. And so it was massive, a massive community.
Yep.
But again, you know, it's just talking about history.
Absolutely.
And talking about memory. And then when she named her daughter Seneca, I thought, oh wow, she took I'm pretty sure they named that after some.
I think it might have been the Seneca Indians, which is why Seneca Falls, New York, which is near Rochester, New York. And makes perfect sense that would go into New York City. So for the folks that could not maybe hear some of the comments, a lady here in the room sharing that where she was from in New York City, the community was named Seneca. So Seneca has great roots in history, and nice, of course, also to know the roots of the story of where we get our names. From the African American community standpoint, you need to come down to Charleston, South Carolina next Saturday, so that we work with the International African American Museum, which
I think they just put it back or put up a plaque in the community there. So someone for years they wiped it away, you know. Everyone wanted to know, but it is now back on the map as to where that community was.
Wonderful. Well, so the point I was about to make then, and the lady just shared that, the city is now back on the map of Seneca within New York City. So next Saturday, for any of you that wish to come over to Charleston, South Carolina, we've been working with the International African American Museum for a year and a half before that museum opened on July 27th, 2023, in order to be able to scan, to capture the stories of the community in order to feed the museum knowledge. They have 8 of these memory station systems, 4 of them within their Center for Family History, 4 of them that they go out into the community in order to capture the stories of the community. And North Charleston has gone through a lot of change, and we want to be able to capture more of the stories that have been caused for many reasons, to make sure that the knowledge of the areas is not lost. So, and I, of course, being very measured in my statements, we need to capture the history. So, come down in Charleston on the 11th. Any other thoughts or questions? Thank you all. Kurt, any closing thoughts?
Just thanks for your time.
You need to say hello here.
They got mics here, right?
Huh?
They got mics in the ceiling here.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you should have. I didn't have to restate things, right? Thank you.
Thanks for your time today and for engaging with us. Please let this be a step, not an event, but a step along the way where we can get to know each other better. And the Allen County Public Library is quite sincere in our commitment to lifelong learning, our commitment to leverage our resources in ways that you think are best for you and your residents. And for those of you who are using this to do family history, oh my goodness, where was this, Rick, 20 years ago? But it's here now. And thanks to you, Rick, and to Vivid-Pix for continuing to be an important part of this community, to continue to advocate for real meaningful applications and implementation of technology. And I hope we all are fans of the power of story, because it is very powerful. Thank you.